Blue Ruin appears to be the sort of sleeper hit of this year so far. Now, it's the new movie by Jeremy Saulnier, I believe is how you pronounce his name. Now, this is the guy who directed a film called Murder Party. Now, just to give you an idea of sort of my relationship with this movie, Murder Party is one of those movies, you look at the poster and you think, wow, that looks terrible. I gave it a go with my partner one night when we were sort of going through Netflix, the UK edition, to see what was on, and Murder Party was on there, and we thought, oh, we'll give it a go. It'll probably be terrible, but we'll get drunk and watch it. Murder Party was a surprise of a movie. It's such a great little, tightly wound, compact, low-budget horror movie with some genuine heart at the centre of it. So Murder Party, definitely check out if you haven't already. It was great. So anyway, I really enjoyed Murder Party. When I found out that he'd done another film starring Macon, is it Macon Blair? Yeah, Macon Blair, who was also in Murder Party, I thought, I have to see that. And then when it came out and, you know, everybody was raving over it, it was getting great reviews, I just thought, this is going to be good. So I didn't want to be disappointed by it, and I must admit, Blue Ruin, it delivers. It's one of the best films I've seen so far this year. It's absolutely great. Now, the plot, not to go into too much detail, but the plot follows the character of Dwight, played by Macon Blair, as you can see there on the cover, who is a drifter. He's homeless and he's living in a car and breaking into houses to use the bathroom and stuff like that. He finds out that the man who murdered his parents is being released from prison, and something inside him snaps and he decides to go and get revenge. Now, while it sounds like the most sort of base genre movie and plot, which to a certain extent it kind of is, it really takes a unique look at that genre, in as much as this is probably as close to a realistic revenge movie as you could get, without going sort of too far that way. It is very much sort of grounded in reality and has a very dark but very human sense of humour at the centre of it. A perfect example of which is basically how Dwight's actions in taking revenge have ramifications for people around him and stuff like that. It's just a very well thought out little movie. Now, the film itself looks gorgeous, and Jeremy Saulnier is apparently, before he turned his hand to directing, was a cinematographer, and it shows. The film looks beautiful. Macon Blair is the main character. I think Murder Party was the only thing I'd seen him in, and to be honest, his character in that movie wasn't really given an awful lot to do. So I was a little bit unsure about sort of hanging the film on his shoulders, so to speak, but he's great in this as Dwight. He brings such a sort of vulnerable and lovable presence to a character who could quite easily be hateable or played just purely for laughs. He brings a certain human element to it, and given that he's in sort of almost every scene in the movie, he really carries it, he pulls it off. The script is really quite inventive in a lot of the sort of set pieces, but the dialogue is kept to a minimum, which I really like. A lot of the film is spent with Dwight on his own, quite isolated, and I would have found it quite jarring if it was a sort of film, you know, where he spoke to himself, or either that or had narration, but it's not. It's largely just sort of silent, which I thought was a really sort of brave choice. The film, I read a few reviews. I tried to stay away from reviews largely before I watched this, but I saw it in reviews, you know, if you got like sound bites from reviews regarding this movie, people comparing it to like the Coen brothers and stuff like that, and I thought, oh, that's, you know, that's a compliment that you hear all too often and it's never really warranted. But I must admit, in this case, it is. The film itself really reminded me of early Coens. It reminded me of the sort of thing they would release in maybe the late 80s following, you know, Blood Simple. It was like that era of Coen brothers. In terms of the mixture of sort of ultra-violence, and it is really violent. You know, I was quite surprised at just how violent this movie is. But also a very sort of strict sense, black sense of humour underneath it all. It is full of sort of uncomfortable laughs in a way, but I really love that. I like it when, you know, a director and a writer can sort of inject a sense of humour to what is inherently dark subject matter. It makes it more relatable and a bit more grounded for me. You know, it gives you something to sort of latch onto. The film is fantastic from beginning to end. Not just Macon Blair's performance, but all the supporting cast, including Buzz from Home Alone, who I had no idea was in this. Everybody in it is great, and is clearly sort of making it out of a place of love, because I understand that the shoot schedule of this film, you know, I think it was a difficult shoot as far as like money goes and stuff like that, but you can see that everybody involved in it really sort of believed in the project. It's just a fantastic little movie. It's for anybody who enjoys your sort of genre films, in as much as like revenge films and stuff, it is quite a unique spin, a very human spin on that genre. I'm very interested to see what the director does next, because I know that after Murder Party sort of didn't amount to anything financially, he had to go back to just being a cinematographer until he could sort of rustle together enough money to make Blue Ruin. So I hope that that doesn't happen again, because the guy is clearly very talented, and I hope he goes on to do sort of bigger and better things, as well as Macon Blair, who is a very sort of lovable leading man. In the same sort of vein, I mean, they're very different people from what I can tell, but you know, when people said, oh, I can't imagine Chris Pratt being much of a leading man, I think people have said the same about Macon Blair when Blue Ruin was trying to get off the ground, but he is really good, so I'd like to see him go on to do sort of bigger and better things as well. It's just such a little pleasant surprise of the movie, and it's so sort of disciplined, and it does, you know, every so often you think you know where the film's going to go, and you think it's going to sort of tick this box or go to this plot point and stuff like that, and a certain character beat, but it does go some way to subverting expectations, and it is very, in doing so, it is very Coen-esque, and I think that's a very apt description. But I must admit, while it is sort of Coen-esque, Jeremy Saulnier definitely has his own sort of tone and style, and it's something that I'd love to see him develop. So Blue Ruin, it's leapt onto my top films of 2014. I absolutely loved it and cannot recommend it enough.